Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. Coming up on the show, I'm going to give you my keys to the game for this Niners-Colts matchup on Monday night, what the Niners must do to win, some of the top matchups to watch, and my prediction. And let's begin by setting the table, setting the foundation, by taking a look at how this Colts team has fared on both sides of the football here in 2025. On offense, look at these numbers despite Daniel Jones having that broken bone in his leg and then tearing his Achilles. With this team having lost 4 games in a row and 5 of their last 6, they've still been a top 10 overall offense, and they're still fighting for their playoff lives on the outside looking in of the AFC wildcard hunt. Number 6 in points per game with 28, number 8 in yards per game, 7th in yards per play, 9th on third down, 6th in the red zone. On defense, Gus Bradley used to be their DC. Now it's Lou Anarumo, as Gus Bradley is the assistant head coach of the defense. And on defense for Indy, they fared pretty well this year in a couple of categories, especially getting after the quarterback. And we'll touch more on that coming up here in just a moment. They are 12th in points per game, 22nd in yards per game, 14th in yards per play, 24th on third downs, but number 9 inside the red zone. As for the Niners offense, with what they've been able to do over the last few weeks, look at where they've risen to in some of these offensive categories. The Niners now 11th in the NFL in points per game, 10th in yards per game, 16th in yards per play. They've scored more of late, but of course, the explosives have gone down. Number 2 in the NFL on third down conversion rate and 9th inside the red area. On defense, it's crazy how Robert Saleh's defense is 11th in the NFL in points per game, 18th in yards per game, 22nd in yards per play, 15th in third down conversion percentage, and 13th inside the red zone. With that, we segue to my keys to the game and top matchups to watch. This is a big storyline going into this game. Could the Niners really lose to 44-year-old Phillip Rivers? It sounds crazy, but if the Niners mess around and don't play well, they could get upset in this game as 6-point favorites. And here's how. Look, the Niners gave up 6.7 yards per carry to the Tennessee Titans last week. If the Niners' run defense fares like they did against Tennessee, against Indy, to Jonathan Taylor, could be a long night for this Niners team. And it allows Indianapolis to control the clock, eat up clock, and keep that red-hot Niners offense on the sideline. This defense has to be sharp. And what I saw against Tennessee, the Niners made things too easy for one of the worst offensive units in the NFL. They gave up explosive plays. They had some coverage miscommunications and coverage lapses and breakdowns. If the defense is not sharp, Phillip Rivers is smart enough pre-snap and post-snap to burn you. So San Francisco has to be on their P's and Q's, and they have to play a tight-lipped ball game here where they don't make a bunch of dumb mistakes. And like Tennessee, where Cam Ward threw them the football, but they couldn't convert, if Phillip Rivers does that, you have to be able to capitalize, especially on the road against a quality opponent. Number 2, speaking of, part of what we said with point number 1, this Niners run defense must come to play. And of late, they've been one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL. Kyle Shanahan was asked about that on Thursday and said, yeah, it's not where we want it to be, and it hasn't been good enough, and it's kind of been a problem here for a little while. The Titans' offense against the Niners averaged 6.2 yards per play for the ball game. The Niners are lucky that their offense scored 5 times on their first 5 drives. Otherwise, they could have lost to Tennessee. That game got a little bit hairy at the end. Here's the big one here. The Tennessee Titans averaging nearly 7 yards per carry. Niners did not generate a turnover after they had forced 7 in the previous 3 games. And look, the Niners have won 4 games in a row because they're playing pretty good football, but on defense, they can't show the concerning signs that we saw displayed against Tennessee, against Indy here. Jonathan Taylor having a terrific year. He's a top 3 back in football, right up there with Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, all-purpose production, of course, playing at a top 5 level as well. Jonathan Taylor this year, more than 1,400 rushing yards, 5.3 yards per carry. And look at that number. 16 touchdowns on the ground with 3 games left. Great vision, great physicality, home run threat. Niners have to bring their A game with that rush defense. Number 3, this efficient Niners offense must carry. And look, going into the year, I had said time and time again ad nauseum, this defense is going to be young. This defense has a new defensive coordinator. They're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to live with some of the blemishes and bruises. By the end of the year, the defense might be in a good spot. But this offense, experienced, highly paid, a lot of marquee players, is going to have to carry this football team. Well, when you're without Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, you're going to struggle from time to time, especially if you don't generate turnovers, which is why this offense has to continue to click. And this is the formula for the Niners to make a deep playoff run. For their offense to hover around 30 points per game, I said this a month ago after that Rams game, and for the defense to just be good enough. Give up all the yards that you want. Force the opposition into field goals. Don't let them score touchdowns. And this efficient offense has to be led by the efficient Brock Purdy that we saw on Sunday against Tennessee. 23 of 30, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, a quarterback rating of 140.3. The biggest thing with how Purdy played against Tennessee, you might say, Chase, the Titans stink, and they do stink. But eye test-wise, Purdy passed it because he looked the healthiest that he's looked all year, and he was so dynamic with his feet and his legs. I want to see that continue, especially behind this shaky offensive line, which brings me to this. That's what you call a great transition and segue in this business, ladies and gentlemen. The Colts can really, really get after the quarterback. Their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, one of the most respected defensive coordinators in the sport, and they have had top 10 sack production coming from everywhere on this defense. Leatu Latu is leading the team with 6.5 sacks. DeForest Buckner is coming off of IR, still has 4 sacks. Kwity Paye has 4 sacks. Neville Gallimore has 3.5. Tyquan Lewis has 3. And then you look down this list, you see sacks coming from defensive ends, defensive tackles, safeties, linebackers, corners. I mean, Kenny Moore has a sack and a half. Mekhi Blackman has a sack. Cam Bynum, the safety, getting in on the party. They are getting sack production from all across that defense. You can't sleep on this defense. And I actually like how this game is stacking up for the Niners because this is going to be a really good litmus test for this team in trying to get ready for the playoffs, ready for the Bears next week, considering the Colts' strengths of running the football just like Chicago. But also, the Niners have not played a winning team, and the Colts are still a winning team since that loss to the Los Angeles Rams. Key to the game number 5, do not look ahead to the Chicago Bears. This cannot be a trap game for San Francisco. This is a monster matchup for the Niners here this week, next week, and also the week after that. You have to take advantage of the opportunity here. And with how closely contested everything is inside the NFC, there is not a lot of wiggle room to drop a couple of games here, especially if the Niners want to control their own fate and still having an opportunity to maybe get the number 1 seed or win the NFC West. I'm recording this before the Seahawks-Rams game on Thursday night. And so you look ahead to that big Bears game. It's one that human nature can come into play where it's easy to look ahead to this. Sunday Night Football against Chicago. Chicago going into Week 16, the number 2 seed. The Niners, 2.5-point favorites, over under 51. Chicago, one of the cooler stories across the NFL this year. This Colts team cannot be taken lightly. They are legitimate despite losing 4 games in a row. So predict the score. Niners on the road against the Colts. Monday Night Football. Robert Saleh against Grandpa P. I'm going with the Niners to win this one. I don't think they get to 30, but I think the offense gets to 25. The defense is just good enough. They intercept Phillip Rivers for a late pick to put this game on ice, and the Niners win their 5th game in a row.